Hello everyone, Miss Carrie here with a color block grid design that you can create with stamps, inks, and embellishments. Today I'm going to share a few stamping techniques that you can use on your scrapbook pages and share how I created this grid design with stickers, die cuts, and stamps. I can't wait to share this project with you. On my desk, I have some elements from the March kit from HipKit Club. These exclusive kits are available for a limited time to HipKit Club members, and they're always filled with so many lovely items. My goal today is to teach you some techniques using inks and stamps. So I've gathered up a few inks and the stamps from the Color Kit and Pocket Life Kit. As I create this layout, I'll be adding a few more items to the page, and I'll add those to the list of supplies in the description below, along with a link to this kit. I have selected the Snowdrop cardstock pattern from my background, and I'm laying out a grid pattern with some pattern paper and cardstock. The polka dot pattern was cut to about 2 1/4 by 2 inches. And layered over some Knox blue cardstock pieces. I wanted those to have a slight rounded edge, so I used the January frames and flare die to cut these pieces out. I have also framed my photo in Knox blue to create a continuous frame around the grid. Now that I know where all these elements are going to lie, I'm going to mark their placement with a pencil so that I can add some ink behind the grid. I will be using the March Mixed Media stamp set with 4 ink colors. I'm going to start with Oh Boy Blue on the left and create some color splashes above and below the grid. I want these to pool a little when I stamp them, so I'm inking up the stamp and then spritzing it with some water before I stamp the image. Because these inks are water reactive, they will create some little puddles of faded color within the image, making it look almost like a watercolor wash on the page. I'm also using some repositionable tape to mask off a portion of the stamped image. This allows me to stay within the area where the column of the grid pieces are going to sit. After stamping the blue ink swishes, I moved to the right column and stamped some images with Bellini. This ink is from the February Color Kit and matches the stickers in the Pink Fresh collection perfectly. Again, I'm misting the ink before I stamp it to give it a little bit of variation of color. I chose a different stamp for this part of the page to vary my pattern. You might also notice that I rotate my stamps. These images have a different swish and splash pattern on each side, so the rotation of the image gives me a more organic look. For the center column, I'm going to do something a little different. I have already masked off both sides to prevent my colors from overlapping too much, and I'm using a blending brush to add a lighter shade of violet. Normally, when I'm blending inks, I start off the edge of the page so I don't get a big pooling of ink. But since this is located in the center of the page, I'm tapping off my brush in the lid of the ink before I blend that color. This just helps to remove some of the excess before I brush it onto the page. In this area, I want to bring in a leaf design. I've used the leaf dies in the Twig and Frond collection to cut out 2 images from masking paper. I'm going to lay these over the lighter color, then bring in my stamp and add the ink wash design over the images with a darker purple. Pixie dust is slightly darker than 16 candles, so this is going to create a very subtle color change once the masks are removed. If you wanted a more defined leaf image, you could use a set of inks with a wider color variation or use contrasting colors in your design. On the center images, I decided to also add a few splatter designs. The mixed media stamp set includes a set of little splatter stamps, which are ideal for people like me who are afraid of creating actual splatters on their pages. If you want these to have a more natural look, you can also spritz the ink with water to create a little pooling. After stamping all the images, I will remove the leaf masks and you'll be able to see a soft leaf design on the paper. Again, this is not a prominent feature, but it is a fun technique to try with your stamps and dies. Alright, now that all three of these color washes are complete, I'm going to start adding some layers to this page. Off camera, I added some zigzag stitching to the top of each of the little grid pieces. Little staples, brads, or ribbon loops could also be added. I'm laying these out a bit haphazardly with some of them overlapping others. You're going to see that some of the grid pieces don't cover those stamped images completely, but it will all work out when I add my pattern paper and stickers below. This page is going to have some hidden journaling, so I brought in one of the journaling bits. I like how these have metal eyelets on the tag and bring another texture to the design. I'm also tearing off a piece of typeset pattern from this paper here. The photo is going to sit on top of that tag and have a little bit of pattern paper below it. I have brought in a 1/2 inch strip of black and white floral pattern, and I'm going to lay this below my grid pieces. This is a great contrast to all the bright colors on the page. Below that paper strip, I'm going to add some tickets and stamp stickers from the sticker book and sticker sheet. I am tearing the ends of these to give them a more distressed look, and I'm going to add the same color of sticker over the area of ink to create a color blocking like design. Now, it took me a moment to get these in place because some of the stickers were rather thin and they kept wanting to curl up instead of under the pattern strip. If I had been planning ahead, I would have laid these tickets down first, then added the floral pattern over the top. After those tickets and stamps were placed on the page, I added my photo and attached that typeset pattern below it. The typeset pattern has some splashes of color that matches those ticket colors, so it creates a fun look on this page. Now I want to add a title and some splashes of color. I'm going to use the rub-ons from the embellishment kit. There's a lovely round pink and yellow ink pattern in this collection, and I'm going to cut this in half and add it to the left side of the page. When I use rub-ons, I like to use repositionable tape to hold them in place. This acts like a hinge that allows me to lift the transfer paper and check to see if all of the image has transferred. After adding those splashes of color, I brought in the transfer title that says "This Moment." In the design, the word "this" sits over the top of the word "moment," but I wanted these to sit side by side, so I carefully cut them apart to create two separate words. Now, as I was working on this page, our daughter was staying with us and she had brought a new puppy with her. While I was trying to transfer the title, the puppy ran through my craft room and I slipped and missed some of that lettering. It looks like it was meant to be because it has kind of a distressed look, so I just left it as is. And if I hadn't told you about it, you probably would have never known. But I wanted to let you know that this is not what the title actually looks like. Now I wanted to bring some of that black in the title to the other side of the page. I know that I'll be able to use the rest of this film strip sticker on another page, and I hated to hide all those lovely images under my photo. At this point, the only pink and yellow on this page is behind that title. So I opted to bring in a little more of those colors with another rub-on image. This large daisy is going to sit behind my journaling tag and create a bold statement piece on the page. In each of the grid pieces, I'm going to add elements that match the ink colors I selected. On the upper left, I cut out a little flag from some pattern paper and stamped the words "Remember This" using a stamp from the PL collection. Over the top of that, I added a blue lettered sticker that says "Enjoy." In the space below, I brought in a circle that was cut from one of the PL sheets. Over the top of this circle, I'm going to add a blue butterfly sticker and another little blue phrase. I'm going to continue this type of color block-like pattern through the rest of the grid layout. The images are going to include some stickers, cardstock pieces, and items from the PL collection. If you create a design like this, you might have to get a little creative. I was struggling to find some purple elements in the sticker packs, so I cut apart one of the PL cards to use the stripe at the base of one of the grid sections. I did some tone-on-tone stamping on that piece to make it look almost like some pattern paper. The words "Happy Day" were stamped in the center, and then I stamped them on either side to create a continuous pattern. As I continue adding items to this page, I would love it if you tap that subscribe button and let me know that you are new here. If you are already a subscriber, let me know that you're enjoying this video by tapping that thumbs up or leaving a comment below. When I was choosing items for this page, I wanted to make sure that the shapes and sizes varied a bit, but I also wanted some repetition. I made sure that most of the phrases had either a script pattern or a typeset. I added a few rounded elements and a few that were more squared off. And I added a little black for contrast and butterflies and florals. I tried to contain most of the pieces to their section of the grid, but a few do encroach into other areas. I felt like this helped the elements flow across the page a little more. Once all the main pieces were in place, I added a few final touches. I brought in a few more script-like elements with leaf stickers and hearts. I also brought in more pink near the photo. The flower at the top of the page gives the illusion that there is some pink ink behind the photo, so I added some pink elements above to continue that color. The little tab is another item that I cut out from the PL kit, and I stamped the words "Note to Self" over the top. I'm going to finish up this page, add some journaling, and I'll share the completed layout with you. Off camera, I added a few more items to the design. On the left, I stamped the word "Enjoy" above the title and added some pen lines to frame the space. I also realized that the only metallic element on the page was the eyelet on the tag, so I brought in a little bit more of that silver color with decorative brads. This allowed me to add a few more circular elements to the page and balance out a few of those grid elements. The grid design is a fun one to make and allows you to get creative with items in the March Harmony collection, which can be found on the HipKit Club website. Today's techniques included a few ways that you can use your inks and stamps on your scrapbook pages. I chose to use some items from our March Color Kit and PL collection to create some unique elements on my page. If you're one who likes to pin photos to inspiration boards, I have added still shots of this layout in the HipKit Club Facebook group and on my website for you to use. I want to thank you for joining me for another scrapbook project. I hope that today's project inspired you to try something new with your inks and stamps and give some of these techniques a try. If you have any questions about this project or the supplies listed below, feel free to leave me a comment. I hope that you have a wonderful week, and I can't wait to see what you create.